Carol, would you be interested in making a video on how external factors such as weather and climate affects colors in the interior? For example, in my corner of Norway, the weather is often drab and rainy, and the light gains a gray tone that affects everything inside the house. Hi everyone, it's Carol from Discover Interior Design, and I'm so glad you're here. Well, I thought it was fabulous how this viewer was noticing the light that was coming into their home was affecting how the colors were looking in their home. And they were spot on in noticing this, that depending on the light that we have in our home and how that looks and feels to us, that is going to affect how colors look, how we perceive colors. So in this video, we're going to talk about that a little bit more and what we can do to take that into consideration when we're choosing colors for our home. So let's get started. So I'm not a scientist, and I wish I knew more about color and light waves and how all that affects how we perceive colors. But one thing I know from being an interior designer and thinking about colors is that lighting does affect how we see color. And light is almost like a filter that we see everything through. We can think of it almost like wearing sunglasses. And when we wear sunglasses, the lenses have a tint or a color to them. And we look through those sunglasses and then everything is affected by those sunglasses. All of the colors are affected by those sunglasses. And the other way to think about this is to think of light as having a color to it. And that's referred to as chromatic light. So chromatic or chroma just has to do with color, having a hue or a color to something. And so when light has a color to it, then that affects the colors of surface colors, meaning wall paint or fabric or tile, anything else that's going on in our room. And it really depends upon what is the kind of color of the light and what are the colors that are going on in the room and what sort of effect will take place where we will see and notice the color change and vary depending upon the color of the light that's in the room. And we have two different types of lighting that we think about for a home. We have artificial lighting, so when we turn on our lights at night, that's our artificial lighting. But the other type of lighting that comes into our home is natural lighting. And artificial lighting is almost kind of predictable. We can turn on our lamps, and depending upon the type of light bulb that we have in those types of lights, it's always going to be kind of predictable. We can always see the same effect every day. But with natural lighting, that is unpredictable, and it kind of changes and can vary depending upon what's going on outside. So for instance, depending upon the weather, that light outside is going to have a different type of filter on it, how we will perceive colors. It could be cloudy and rainy, or it could be a sunny day. And it could also be a certain time of year. Maybe we get all 4 seasons, and the light outside will vary depending upon what's going on outside. And then we can also think about other things that would affect the light. Maybe it's the morning, and natural light in the morning is usually a little bit cooler, whereas in the evening it's a little bit warmer. And we can even think about where we live and the landscape around us and the colors that are in that landscape, and even particulates in the air. Maybe there's smog or a fire. All of that contributes to how that filter, how that light looks and feels to us. And so it creates a certain filter. And by the time it filters through our windows, which is almost like another filter, because depending upon the glass we have, if there's a color to the glass, or where those windows are located and which room we're in, all of those factors will play a role into how that light arrives inside our rooms and gives us a filter on how all of those colors look and feel to us in our home. So what should we think about when we're choosing colors for our home? Well, it goes back to noticing the light that's in your home, noticing the natural light that's coming into your home as well as the artificial lighting. And it's trying out colors to see how they are working. So for instance, if you are choosing pink colors, I always recommend narrowing down your choices to maybe 2, maybe 3 colors, but painting those colors on different walls in a room and taking notice throughout the day how those colors look and feel to you. And if you can live with them for a week, just to kind of see how all those colors look and feel during the day and at night, and maybe you have some variation with the weather outside, and just to see how all of that looks and feels. And then just kind of take all that in and see which color kind of stands out to you that you prefer the most. Keeping in mind that the lighting in a room is going to change throughout the day, and every day it may be a little bit different. But just to kind of step back and say, oh, which color do you kind of enjoy the most? Which one really speaks to you the most? And go with that color. And even if you have other things that you're working with in your home, maybe you're looking at new carpet or new wood flooring or even a new sofa with a color on it. What I always recommend doing is seeing if you can get some samples of fabrics, of carpet, of wood flooring, and working with all of those different materials in your home, taking a look at them for a couple of days, and then just kind of stepping back and noticing how all of that is working. And if you need to make some adjustments, this is the time to do it before you buy anything. And the main reason why we are looking at the colors in our home under the lighting that we have is that the lighting in a paint store, for instance, or a lighting in a store where you're buying a sofa, or even lighting that we are looking at online, all of that lighting is different. It's not like your home's lighting. So it's really important to check and see how colors look under the lighting conditions in your home. And so for our viewers' comment, they mentioned they have kind of this gray filter coming into their home and kind of probably graying everything out. And so we would want to think about trying out some colors again in this home. And one thing that I would kind of think about is if everything is kind of grayed out, I wonder if this viewer would want to try using more pure colors. So what I mean by that is more pure and clear blues or greens or purples or even whites and blacks and earth tones instead of grayer neutral versions, because knowing if that the colors are going to get grayed down a little bit, let's maybe bump up the saturation, the purity of those colors a little bit and see how those work. And then the other thing to think about is if you were going to bring in other colors, say like oranges or yellows, and if you were going to use those colors in your home, even in smaller areas, maybe a tile backsplash or a sofa with those colors on it, I would still want to kind of look and see how all those colors are working. And if they are also getting kind of grayed down, maybe think about bringing in more pure saturated colors so that I would know that they're going to get grayed down a little bit, but then it would kind of balance out at the end. And the other thing I would want to kind of look at if I were this viewer is thinking about lightness. And, if that gray tone is maybe making everything kind of darker. And if it is, then just being aware of that and making sure to bring in some lighter colors as well as darker colors and mid-tone colors. to make sure there's variety in the space. And then the other thing I would want to think about if I were this viewer is making sure that the colors I am bringing into my home, especially the paint color and the flooring, those large areas, making sure that they are providing a comfortable look, because the last thing that you want to do is feel cold. You want to feel kind of comfortable. So maybe that means bringing in tones that are on the warmer side, possibly, depending upon how they look in the room. And also thinking about the artificial lighting, making sure that the light bulbs that you're using, the color of those light bulbs, the color that those light bulbs emit, which is actually referred to as the color temperature, is maybe on the warmer side or maybe on the more neutral white side, so that it's not too blue and creating too much of a colder look and feel to your space. And if you're interested, I created a video about how light affects color. So I'll leave a link to that video in this video's description. So I'd love for you to take a moment in your busy day and just to notice lighting in one of your rooms, and just to notice how that changes throughout the day, and also how it's changing the color or how we perceive colors throughout the day. And share what you find out in the comments. And if you have any other ideas for us about choosing colors in our home and thinking about lighting and how important that is to notice that and consider that when we are choosing colors, please leave your design ideas in the comments as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.